are the biggest gaming leaks and news you've probably missed this week. So yeah, we've got the Xbox showcase coming up on Sunday the 8th, right? And just before that, on the 6th, there's Summer Games Fest. Lots of showcases dropping back to back, but the one people seem really hyped for is Bathesda's slot. Now, I'm in the camp that thinks they're probably just gonna show Starfield's second expansion. Maybe like 6 hours of gameplay this time, more paid mods, same old stuff. Honestly, I'm not expecting much. But some folks have been stirring the hype pot, saying we might get something way bigger. And honestly, I'm not sold on that. One of the rumors floating around is a Fallout 3 remake reveal. Not impossible, but I think that's a next year thing. They just dropped the Oblivion remaster this year, right? So dropping 2 big remakes in under 12 months doesn't make much sense. I'd be surprised if it happens, but hey, never say never. Then there's Juicehead. If you don't know him, he's a YouTuber who covers a ton of Bathesda and RPG news. He suggested we might get an Elder Scrolls 6 trailer next week. Like, what's the bet on that? I want to know what you think. Will we see Elder Scrolls 6 at these showcases? No maybes, just yes or no. I'm putting it out there in the chat. Most people think Elder Scrolls 6 won't drop till 2027, so why show it now? Plus, there's talk Starfield DLC and Outer Worlds 2 will take the spotlight. Maybe some Fallout Season 2 trailers too? That's already a lot to cover without stepping on each other. Juicehead did mention though that maybe Bethesda drops a trailer late in the showcase as a kind of mic drop moment. Like, hey, stay subscribed to Game Pass, even if the game releases later. He's brought up 2026 a few times as a possible release year. I don't know if he's got insider info or just speculating. He does follow Bethesda closely, but personally, I'm leaning toward 2027 to 2028 still. Why? Well, Bethesda's output has actually slowed, even though they've been hiring more people. Weird, right? Normally, more employees means more productivity, or at least not less. But with Bethesda, it's almost the opposite. More bugs, broken quests, and slow fixes. They spent a whole year on Starfield DLC, and it only gave like 5 hours of content. Meanwhile, back in 2016, Fallout 4 DLC had way more content and way less time, so yeah, their productivity looks like it's dropped as the team grew. So just adding more people doesn't mean they can pump out an Elder Scrolls game fast. Could they reveal something like they did with Starfield? Possibly. But actually dropping the game next year? I'd be shocked. Plus, former devs have talked about how complicated Bethesda's pipeline is. Too many cooks, too many approvals. It's a mess. I think that's why CDPR had to restructure their teams just to get Phantom Liberty out the door. Smaller, cross-functional teams working together instead of big silos. I could see them shadow dropping Fallout 3 a few years before Elder Scrolls 6 drops. Xbox has a history of showing games way too early anyway, so maybe Fallout 3 late next year, but Elder Scrolls 6 still 2027 or 28 for me. At the end of the day, Xbox wants to keep you subscribed to Game Pass, so they drop teasers to keep you hooked. Hey, Elder Scrolls 6 is coming, don't cancel. You know how that works. One game I'm actually hyped about from Bethesda that might surprise people, State of Decay 3. They've been working on it forever. State of Decay 2 was rough but fun. If they polish this one up, I'm all in. But yeah, back to Elder Scrolls 6. There just hasn't been enough time. Starfield launched in 2023, and sure, they probably started work on Elder Scrolls 6 right after, but a full Elder Scrolls game in 3 years. That's a stretch. And honestly, if it's rushed, that's not the game you want. A proper Elder Scrolls probably takes 4 or 5 years. And Bethesda's track record lately, not exactly speedy or bug-free. So yeah, I just don't see a 2026 release happening. Xbox's first-party handheld? Yeah, it looks like it's been put on the back burner. Microsoft's doubling down on making Windows 11 PC gaming better instead. If you missed it, last week some stories dropped showing how much better SteamOS runs games on handhelds compared to Windows. Like, we're talking 10 to 15% better performance on the exact same hardware. It's wild. They tested this on the Legion Go. Same device, one running Windows, the other SteamOS, and SteamOS just crushed Windows, which sounds crazy because SteamOS is basically a Linux wrapper running the games. It shouldn't even perform better, but somehow it does. This probably freaked Microsoft out a bit. Plus, there were leaks about a partnered Xbox handheld with Asus called Keenan. It looked promising, but the problem is Windows 11 just isn't built for handhelds. So Microsoft probably realized if we just slap Windows 11 on a handheld, it's going to suck. And honestly, Microsoft's history shows they sometimes do hardware just for PR, not to really compete. Like, oh, Apple made a phone, we gotta do one too, but no real push behind it. This feels like that kind of deal. They know they can't beat Steam Deck, especially with rumors of a Steam Deck 2 coming soon. If that thing outperforms Xbox handheld, what's the point? So instead, said they're focusing on optimizing Windows 11 gaming on PC first, laying the groundwork before they try handhelds again. Honestly, smart move. Now, Xbox has their showcase coming June 8 with a ton of great games coming out. Xbox Game Pass is killing it, with dozens of studios pumping out quality stuff, but the hardware future? Kinda murky. Microsoft's hardware teams, Xbox and Surface, are top tier, but corporate might have different ideas on how to grow the brand. I thought we'd see that handheld at the showcase, maybe steal some spotlight, but it's on hold. No clue when they made that call. Maybe months ago, maybe last week after those Steam OS performance numbers dropped. From what we hear, the hardware is basically done. It might even be one of the first devices running AMD's Z2 Extreme chip, but software-wise, there's a ton of work to do. Xbox and Windows teams are collaborating to improve things, but right now, the Xbox app, man, it sucks. Like, really sucks. So yeah, they got scared and paused to rethink. My take, if you can't do it well, don't do it at all. No point releasing a half-baked handheld that loses money and gives Xbox a bad rep. Better to hold off, get it right, then launch with something solid. They could also be cooking up a big launch bundle. Maybe the next Gears of War or Elder Scrolls 6 comes free with the handheld. That'd sell units, but maybe they just need more time to get that figured out. Honestly, it's probably for the best. Microsoft has a habit of dropping hardware then walking away when it doesn't pan out. And it's worse than that. Google's become the joke of the tech world. Announce something, and everyone's like, whoa, remember Stadia?
Stadia? What? What's Stadia? Stadia is only the newest, most logic-defying, mind-bending, absurd gaming platform on Earth! Forget boxes, forget consoles, just your games, your screens, and electric air. And this electric air is Stadia!
Everyone knew it was doomed from day one. I'm actually surprised the Pixel phone line is still alive. They're great phones, but Google's history shows if it's not a massive success like Gmail, they tend to just give up. So yeah, Xbox handheld on pause. Windows 11 gaming optimization is priority one now. Fingers crossed they nail it before jumping back in. Alright, so if you missed it, PlayStation Stars was this thing PlayStation was messing around with for a while.
Today, I'm pleased to give you a sneak peek at some examples of our digital collectibles. Whether it's a beloved game character or a cherished device from Sony's innovative history, there will always be something new to collect and show off to your friends.
And honestly, most people, me included, thought it was gonna be some kind of NFT project at first. Then they backed off. The whole idea was these tiny collectibles, like little statues or trophies inside the console. Come on, that screams NFT vibes, right? You play games, earn coins, then trade those coins for these digital trinkets. Supposedly, you could even buy full games with those coins or points, but then they twisted it into more of a regular rewards program. Play more, get rewards. Problem is, it just never really worked. Nobody really knew about it, and the folks who did were using it so much, PlayStation was losing money on it. They even tried selling stuff like a Jim Ryan collectible bobblehead, except it wasn't even rare, just uncommon. Like, who wants that? Long story short, I think they wanted NFTs. But when NFTs tanked, they pulled back and made it a basic fan loyalty thing. But since it wasn't making money and barely anyone cared, they just decided to kill it. So they announced it's shutting down. Until July 23rd, it still kinda works, but after that, no new campaign. Then, by November 2nd, 2026, it's gone for good. Points expire and all that. Honestly, I'd totally forgotten PlayStation Stars existed, and I think most people have too, so no harm, no foul.
I have more good news. PlayStation Stars will begin to roll out in some regions in Asia, starting in late September. It will launch in the Americas and Europe in the weeks that follow. That's it for now. Check PlayStation blog to learn more about PlayStation Stars.
If they made a physical one for like 10 or 20 bucks, I'd buy that just to put it in the studio for laughs. But digital? Nah, no thanks. Digital collectibles never made sense to me. Like, what am I gonna do? Sit bored in a room staring at a digital bobblehead? That's so dumb. I get some people like collecting stuff, but digital versions just never clicked for me. Alright, what the hell is going on with Mind's Eye? I want to talk about this because there's so much info flying around. Early previews, official trailers, rumors. And honestly, the more I dig into the studio behind it, Build a Rocket Boy, the more confused I get. So, the game's led by Leslie Benzies, who used to be big at Rockstar, like the guy who helped save Red Dead Redemption back in the day. The studio originally pitched something called Everywhere. a few years ago. It sounded like this crazy creative suite, kind of like Little Big Planet or Dreams, where players could build stuff themselves, but then they pivoted and built Mind's Eye using those tools. Here's the kicker. If you buy the PC version, you actually get access to the same creation tools they used. So it's not just a game. It's almost like a sandbox where the campaign is just one part. At random points in the story, you can beam into this empty city sandbox where more content could come from the devs or the community. Sounds wild, right? When the game was first announced, I thought it was going to be a straightforward mix of driving, shooting, and narrative, like a throwback to Xbox 360 era single-player games. That's what I was hyped for. But now, it feels like the focus has shifted hard toward this user-generated content thing, tied to everywhere, but not actually inside everywhere anymore. The name Build a Rocket Boy is kinda perfect, since the idea is that players build their own Rocket Boys levels and missions. It honestly feels like they had a boardroom meeting and said, let's make a game people like, but also, let's say it's made with all these crazy tools and let players go nuts building stuff. Cool idea, but they haven't made that super clear to the public. And the game itself? The launch footage so far looks meh, barely seen much until recently. And for a while, people wondered if this game was even coming out next week. Now we know it is, but from what they've shown, it looks like it's coming out hot, like unfinished, buggy, and clunky, hoping to patch it up later or lean on user-generated content to fill the gaps. Here's a weird twist. The co-CEO, Mark Gard, recently claimed there's a paid campaign out there trying to trash the game. He even hinted Rockstar might be behind it. He says bots and repeated negative replies are flooding their content. Sounds nuts, right? Honestly, I don't have enough info to say if that's true or not. It's possible, since in some cases, people do pay for bot campaigns to trash stuff online. But also, it could just be regular folks being skeptical. Saying every negative comment is a paid hit job? That's a bit crazy, and it doesn't help their image. The gameplay they've shown is super basic. Cover shooting, aiming with left trigger, shooting with right trigger, and occasionally flying a drone to mark targets. Oh, and shooting red barrels for explosions. Classic! It even gives me a throwback to mid-2000s games like Headhunter or Sleeping Dogs. I love those older games, but if you're selling a game engine as powerful and flexible, this just looks kinda plain. Also, the connection between the story campaign and the sandbox city is weird. You just walk through portals to warp to different realities. How does that even make sense in the story? I don't know, it's giving me a headache. The game's published by IO Interactive, the Hitman folks, but it's one of the first big titles they're publishing that's not their own. Maybe it's a mess they inherited, or a half-baked project they're trying to sell. Anyway, the roadmap for this year is pretty vague. They'll add races, drone races, and some story missions. There's a free pass and a premium pass, but no real clear plan beyond that. Feels like they don't even know what all they'll add. Honestly, I'm kinda intrigued by how dumb this all sounds. It's $60, which is steep if it's unfinished, but I might still buy it just because it reminds me of those older mid-tier games I love. So yeah, Mind's Eye looks messy, confusing, and half-baked, but there's a part of me that wants it to be good. We'll see. So, Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is about to get a pretty huge upgrade later this year. We're talking cross-platform mod support coming to PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. This is thanks to mod.io, a platform that makes downloading, sharing, and managing mods way easier across different systems. Now, why is this a big deal? Mods have always been a huge part of Witcher 3's life on PC, with tons of players creating everything from simple tweaks to full-on story expansions. Modding was always limited or exclusive to PCs, but this update changes that and lets console players finally enjoy a big chunk of that custom content, all shared across platforms. It's pretty much a first for a big RPG to have this level of mod support across consoles and PC. Oh, and the best part? Downloading mods won't cost a dime. Free mods, no subscription fees or hidden costs, which feels rare in today's gaming world. Imagine if EA or Ubisoft tried this. They'd probably turn it into a paid service or some subscription model. So props to CD Projekt Red for keeping it simple and player-friendly. You will need a mod.io account, which links to your CDPR account to manage mods and progress. And yeah, you can still use classic PC mod sites like Nexus Mods or Steam Workshop for your PC version. But just a heads up, not all mods will make it to consoles, because Sony and Microsoft have content rules that some mods might not meet. One thing to note, consoles won't get a mod creator tool like PC's RedKit, so you can enjoy mods on PS5 and Xbox. But creating them is still a PC exclusive thing. This game dropped back in 2015, but honestly, it still holds up incredibly well. Visually, it's gotten upgrades and tweaks over the years, but even the original game looked fantastic for its time. The story is rich and immersive. You're following Geralt Geralt's journey through a world that feels alive and full of interesting characters. Gameplay-wise, there's a ton of depth. Sure, some folks have their complaints about certain mechanics or quest design, but overall, it's a deep, nuanced RPG that rewards exploration and decision-making. The content isn't just filler either. Most side quests and missions feel meaningful, even the silly ones like that frying pan quest, which, yeah, I actually enjoyed more than I expected. Witcher 3 set a high bar for open-world RPGs, and it's cool to see CDPR doubling down on supporting it with big updates like this. Looking ahead, Witcher 4 is on the horizon, and it's shaping up to be massive. Now, I know some fans are salty that Geralt won't be the main character anymore. He had a full trilogy, after all. But don't worry, Geralt's story isn't done. The Witcher 1 remake is coming, so if you want more Geralt, that's covered. Plus, the new game will introduce fresh stories and characters, which is exciting. From what I've seen and heard, the hate around Witcher 4 is mostly a vocal minority online. When it drops, I think it'll sell huge and get the respect it deserves. One weird thing about the gaming community these days is how they mix up different games and treat every new title like the next big controversy. For example, Intergalactic has gotten some rough criticism after its debut trailer, which is pretty harsh for a game we barely know much about. Meanwhile, Witcher 4 is seen as the next big thing for RPG fans, and despite some online noise, it's going to crush sales and likely be a huge hit. Just a reminder, don't mix up the two. They're totally different games with very different futures. PlayStation Plus had a little update recently with some new games added to the service. One notable addition is Another Crab's Treasure, which dropped on May 29th. It's a really cool, colorful Souls-like game that's been well received. Honestly, it's a bit unexpected. Underwater Souls-like, but it works. And it's a great little bonus for PS Plus Extra subscribers. There are also other new additions like Skull and Bones, Destiny 2 Legacy Collection, and GTA 3 Definitive Edition. But honestly, Skull and Bones feels like a meme at this point. Nobody's hyped about it, and it's not the kind of marquee game you want leading a lineup. Destiny 2 is still popular with its expansions, but some say Bungie's lost a bit of its spark. And GTA 3 is a fine throwback, but it's pretty old at this point. Overall, the PS Plus lineup feels a little weak right now. I'd love to see Sony bring in bigger titles or more exciting fresh games to boost the service. So, an ex-Bungie dev just dropped some serious tea about the Marathon project leadership, and it's not pretty. This guy, Spirit, who worked there as a senior software engineer from mid-2022 to mid-2024, went on Blue Sky and basically said the leadership was extremely toxic and humiliating to work with. He didn't hold back, said Bungie's leadership needs to be completely gutted. He talked about how bad the work environment was, not just because of the project direction, but how the teams were treated personally. This isn't new for him either. After the big layoffs last year, he already called Bungie's leadership the worst he's worked with. Micromanagement was rampant, toxicity was everywhere, and they basically ignored their own core values. According to him, it was a daily battle just to get any autonomy or respect. He said stuff like being told he wasn't allowed to talk about problems professionally, and that his years of industry experience didn't matter because some clueless CEO knew better. Classic corporate nonsense. When asked if things would change, he said the leadership shakeup from October layoffs, yeah, they'd pull that lever again. Basically, they need to flush out the leadership completely. His team was great, but everything else was holding them back from doing real work. He also mentioned the layoffs keep pushing Bungie to lean more on contractors and even AI to get things done, which just makes life harder for the full-time staff. He was pissed about losing talented friends who weren't at fault, saying every round of layoffs just makes the studio more reliant on contractors and AI. Honestly, this lines up with what everyone's been hearing. Toxic workplace, bad leadership, and a sinking ship vibe. It's wild how fast a giant like Bungie can fall when leadership screws up this badly. Alright, so Stellar Blade 2 is on the way. Sequel to one of the most stunning and talked about action games on PlayStation. The Korean studio behind it, Shift Up, isn't messing around. They recently massively upgraded their 3D scanning system. Think hundreds of high-res cameras, crazy lighting setups, and so many cables it took them 2 months just to organize the wiring. This isn't some basic setup, it's a full-on high-end scanning rig. Why does that matter? Well, Stellar Blade was praised for its insanely detailed character models, especially the main character Eve, who was based on real-life Korean model Shinji Yoon. They even used cosplayer Yuka for some of the outfits. With this new tech, the sequel is going to push for even more realism and immersion, better textures, motion capture, and outfit details. We don't have gameplay yet, but knowing how they did the first game, fast-paced action, sci-fi story, bold design choices, I'm guessing the sequel will build on that with deeper combat, better visuals, and maybe bigger, more open environments. They're aiming for a 2020 2027 release, which gives them plenty of time to polish. Sony published the first game, so it's almost a given the sequel will launch as a PlayStation 5 timed exclusive, then probably hit PC later. Could even straddle the PS5 and next-gen PlayStation launch, since 2027's when the new console is rumored. So, another Battlefield 6 video leaked online, this time showing about 6 minutes of gameplay with massive destruction, buildings crumbling, chaos everywhere. Longtime fans will remember how Battlefield set itself apart, starting with Bad Company in 2008, thanks to the Frostbite engine letting you blow stuff up mid-fight, making battles way more immersive. But Battlefield 2042 in 2021 kinda dropped the ball, dialing back on destruction and focusing more on huge maps and futuristic tech, which didn't sit well with everyone. Looks like DICE heard the complaints loud and clear. Battlefield 6 is bringing back the destruction big time. Multiple studios are working on it, with DICE leading, but Motive Studios, known for the Dead Space remake, is handling the single-player campaign. Motive's team talked about crafting a campaign focused on ordinary people thrown into extreme, emotional, high-stakes war situations. Think survival instincts, pressure, strained relationships. They're taking inspiration from intense dramas and films like Civil War and Lioness. They're also using lessons from Dead Space on building tension and pacing, which is cool, since creating emotional highs and lows works across genres. The leak content shows Battlefield 6 is definitely aiming to recapture its roots, but the big question remains, will the single-player campaign be good? Call of Duty has had chances to nail that, and often missed the mark. This could be Battlefield's shot to really deliver. People Can Fly, the Polish studio behind Outriders, just announced they're suspending 2 projects, Project Gemini and Project Bifrost. Gemini stalled because Square Enix didn't provide a new deal or clear plans, so the studio had to pull the plug. Bifrost was a VR title, but after crunching the budget, it wasn't financially feasible. They're downsizing some staff, which sucks but sometimes necessary. This isn't the first time. They canceled Project Dagger last year, which was supposed to be published by Take-Two. But not all is lost. People Can Fly is working with Microsoft on Gears of War, E-Day, a prequel in that franchise. Plus, they're making an unannounced game for Sony. Since People Can Fly is known for action shooters and looter shooters, chances are this new Sony game is along those lines. Fast combat, tight gameplay, maybe some multiplayer. Sony tends to back strong single-player action games with rich stories, so it's probably something in that mold. Rumors say it's an existing Sony IP, maybe a reimagining or remake of classic shooters like Killzone, Resistance, or SOCOM. That'd be pretty hype. No official details yet. Probably won't see anything concrete until 2026 or later. Call of Duty's in trouble. Activision has started putting in-game ads right into the loadout menus for Black Ops 6 and Warzone. So when you're customizing weapons, you get pop-ups for bundles and battle passes. No way to avoid them. Sure, ads in free-to-play Warzone is expected, but fans are mad these ads are in Black Ops 6, a full-price premium game. People are calling it intrusive, comparing it to annoying mobile game pop-ups. On Reddit, Discord, and Twitter, players are furious. Comments like, "I wouldn't mind ads in Warzone, but full-price game? No thanks." And "It feels like I'm playing a mobile game with all these ads," are everywhere. Activision's been pushing monetization hard since Microsoft bought them for $69 billion, and this just feels like they're cranking it up even more. To make matters worse, Activision recently admitted Warzone Mobile didn't hit the mark and is shutting it down, which leaves fans worried about the franchise's direction. I'm with the fans here. Ads in a premium single-player game? No. Free games? Sure. But this? It's too much. Ubisoft's reportedly greenlit The Crew 3, the next main entry in their open-world racing series. The interesting part, they might be returning to the series' roots. Massive open-world maps like the original The Crew and The Crew 2, instead of the festival vibe of Motorfest. The Crew series has been led by Ubisoft Ivory Tower in France since 2007. The Crew launched in 2014, followed by The Crew 2 in 2018. Then, Motorfest in 2023, which focused on a smaller Hawaiian map and festival-style events, inspired by games like Forza Horizon. Motorfest did well sales-wise, but divided fans. Some missed the big open-world exploration. This new game looks like a direct sequel to The Crew 2, potentially bringing back the continental US map. We might even see the numbered naming come back, The Crew 3, although it's still early days. Don't expect it anytime soon, though. It's probably still in pre-production, so a release around 2030 or later sounds likely, maybe spanning both current and next-gen consoles. Meanwhile, Motorfest isn't going anywhere. Ubisoft keeps supporting it with seasonal updates, events, and community challenges. If you want to be ahead of all the gaming leaks and news, specifically PlayStation news, time for you to subscribe. And as always, a like on the video is very much appreciated.